I just got done playing the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo that is currently available right now on PlayStation 4. And as much as I love the original game, and yes, I still have the original game, the remake captures all of the magic, all of the phenomenal storytelling beats, and then dials them up to 50 and makes it such a unique experience. It's an absolute must-play for anybody. I would argue most people who've been playing games as long as I have would say that Final Fantasy VII would rank somewhere on their top 5 of greatest games ever played. It absolutely ranks on my list. And what was so special about this game to me was it pushed the envelope, one, in graphics. And when you go back and look at how bad the Final Fantasy VII graphics were back then, you laugh, but back then that was the bee's knees, as they would say. The mature storytelling, the insane plot twist about halfway through with Cloud, all of these great things coming into fruition in such an amazing game that was 3 discs. I mean, look at how big this was. Look at how we used to play games back in the Stone Age. Look at, you have this giant, and I do miss the user manual, this giant user manual. Look at how big this thing was. It was, does it say how many pages? 69 pages, giggity, of a user's manual that had art back then. Can you believe that? We had art books. It shows a little bio of every character in the game. Ketchi, Vincent Valentine, Yuffie, Red 13, Sid, of course, Cloud, Tifa. The whole gang is listed in here. Talks all about their abilities, talks about how to play the game. We got some really cool art in here, as I mentioned. You get to see Sephiroth. God, I miss these art books so bad. I haven't opened this case in a very long time, but I wanted to pull it out because I wanted to reflect on some of the nostalgia that was this game and how phenomenal it was. But the remake is just so good. It takes all of the great story beats of this game and it just expands on them in such clever, unique ways. So I'm not gonna get into spoilers. I don't think a game that is like 1 billion years old at this point even really needs a spoiler tag on it. I mean, this game came out in 1997. That's a long time ago. I was a sophomore in high school. I'm now a 37-year-old man. Man, time flies, right? I remember, I'm not crying, I did an eyelash. I remember picking up this game after school and running home, because I didn't have a car back then, and just losing my life in this for many, many months. And I suspect people who have either enjoyed the original game or have no idea what Final Fantasy or why Final Fantasy VII is just so good, I think that's gonna happen again when this remake comes out. Now, I'm not ecstatic about the fact that it's gonna be compartmentalized. I think it would be really cool if we could have the entire game at once. Unfortunately, Square Enix, not saying they're dragging their feet, they're taking their sweet time to put this together. No rush. That said, though, it's gonna be a couple years, maybe longer, before we see this thing completely developed from A to Z. But I think there's enough to chew on here, and I really think that some of the gameplay mechanics that they've added take this game in a very different genre, and it feels very different than it did before, and it's gonna be fun for people who've never played it, and it's going to be nostalgia overload for those like me who absolutely loved this game and played it to death when it came out many, 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 many moons ago. I think what makes the combat so cool about the remake is that it is a cross between an action adventure type game, something you would see in like God of War, where you could just smash attack button if you want, but then it has that nice layer of that RPG element to it. And when you hit that command button and time slows down almost to a complete crawl, first of all, it's jaw-dropping gorgeous. It is so phenomenal how they captured the essence of combat in that frame by frame motion. You're seeing little bullet casings. You're seeing sparks of steel as Cloud uses his giant buster sword to cut people down. You're getting a sense of the battlefield at such a slow speed. It is so amazing that they were able to squeeze that amount of detail into every little action. But you have that ability then to go to that command menu and to call up spells or to use potions or to do things that are more advanced than you would normally do than just smashing on the square button, mowing down people with Barrett's gun arm or taking it up close, you know, with Cloud and that phenomenal buster sword. One of the most iconic weapons in any video game ever, by the way. Really, really neat stuff. What is interesting to me is that the game forces you to play in both modes, which is really refreshing, honestly. You don't have to necessarily go into that advanced mode. You'd be foolish not to, but I don't think you have to. You're gonna use that regular mode, smashing down square, using roll, using the trigger buttons to roll away from enemies, to deflect attacks, not to take as much damage. And as you begin to attack enemies with your regular attack, that's when you build up your special meter. And that's what allows you to then call upon that command menu, which allows you to cast spells or to use potions or to do advanced combat like techniques like run at an enemy and do 3 times damage, or burn all of your gauge to do a monster shot or something like that. And every character has them, and they will learn more as time goes on, and you will obviously learn more spells and more abilities. That's just the joys of an RPG. And there will be times when you'll want to use certain things in certain battles. You'll want to buff yourself with haste, or you'll want to slow an enemy down. There's a lot of options here, and we only got a fraction of those in this small open, this little demo we got to check out, this little area we got to explore. But I can tell you, as a veteran of most Final Fantasy games, by the end of the game, you're gonna pretty much be a demigod. You're gonna be able to take out pretty much anything you want, and you're gonna have a litany of spells and abilities at your disposal. What also makes this particularly cool to me is that you can kind of set up abilities. So by pressing left and right on the directional D-pad, you can switch between characters. So if you want to just stand back with Barrett and hold down square, he's just going to start raining lead on people. It's not a lot of damage. It's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, which I love the damage indicators, by the way. Real-time damage indicators in any of these games are very well appreciated, at least in my opinion. Barrett's gonna be back in the back line, just laying down the fire. Cloud's gonna be up front doing his thing, because the computer will take over and he'll just run forward and start fighting. But then when you're ready to devastate an enemy, you can kind of chain attacks. You can have Barrett wind up an attack, then you could switch to Cloud, again, all in this like super slow motion time, so you have plenty of time. It's not like you're trying to do some crazy fatality at the end of Mortal Kombat and you're like doing 80 buttons at once and you're screwing things up. You take your time, you slow down time, you pull off these phenomenal combos where both characters will hit at once for even more devastating attacks and even more devastating effects on the enemy. You'll stagger them faster, you'll weaken them, you'll do different things to them depending on what you're doing. And it gives you a really good sense of this camaraderie, and it's fun to build up each of the individual characters, and then, it's morphin' time, right? And everybody comes together at once and unloads just monstrous amount of damage on enemies, and it's really, really, really fun to pull that off. I am particularly excited for this. I know a lot of people feel like this game has taken a long time to come out. You would be right. It definitely has had its fair share of waiting. I remember when we saw this a couple years ago at E3, and here we are with just the first snippet of gameplay that's in our home, that's not at some showroom floor. And we all know that when the game comes out, it's going to focus mostly on the Midgard campaign, which is just the beginning of how expansive this world is. But the love and care that Square Enix put into this first area, every little detail is accounted for. You really feel like you're going through a factory. the little chatter that Biggs and Wedge, yes, that Biggs and Wedge, not from Star Wars, right? that they have with Jessie and her love for Cloud, and Barrett, this grunty, tough dude who just is treating you like a merc and everything. The dialogue that they have, the chatter that they have, the way they interact with the environment, the way you interact with the environment, using your sword to cut down supply boxes and to, dash through lasers and stuff. They really did a phenomenal job of building up this world and taking everything that we already loved about the original and cranking it up to 10. I can't wait for this game to come out. If this isn't an endorsement, if you're not convinced after watching my video talking about it, don't get this game. But for everybody else out there, I cannot wait to get my hands on this. I am beyond excited for what Square Enix has showed me in just this small little demo. I can't wait to get my hands on the final product. Hope you guys enjoyed my look back at Final Fantasy, good old Final Fantasy VII. Hope you guys liked my little talk and walkthrough kind of what I liked about the demo. I have nothing bad to say about it, except I wish we could get more. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.